camera's doing that. What is your name and what do you do?
So my name is David Mantica. My profession is president, executive. The company I work for is ASPE. We're a division of Fortis College. ASPE is a business-to-business for-profit training company, and Fortis College is a business-to-consumer for-profit post-secondary college.
Can you remember a time when there was no Google?
Can I remember a time when there was no Google? I can absolutely remember a time when there was no Google. I can remember the noise of the dial-up modem clicking in and allowing me to then potentially VPN to read my email and potentially go to Netscape to do some browsing. That's what we used to talk about it back then, browsing. And when I was doing that browsing, it was all very URL specific. And so I was looking at different URLs that I knew of and doing some reading and research on very specific companies that I had to do reading and research on, doing email communications, and maybe some light web development. That was the early stages of what I was doing before Google, very focused on the browser side of things and browsing specific URLs that I had known off the top of my head or written down or gotten from a magazine that I wrote down.
How did people use Google when it first came out?
So, how did people use Google when it first came out? I mean, certainly I can remember using it and when it initially came out, and I really looked at using it personally to, instead of having to know the URL, to actually type in the specific company I was looking for. And the bigger the company, more apt that they would actually have a web presence. So instead of having to remember specific URLs, I could go ahead and research a specific company and then look at that company and get information on that company. And then occasionally I would research specific products or look up very specific information. Not necessarily thinking that all the information was available, but just trying to find what might be out there on that specific topic. The internet was smaller when Google first came out, so in a lot of cases there was communities more so than just straight aggregate content, so I would search those communities and then find information at those community sites, or I would look for specific companies.
How do companies use computers and internet now?
So how do companies use computer and the internet now? So when I look at how companies use the computer and internet right now, I'd say number one is mobile commerce, or not even just mobile commerce, but e-commerce. Number two, I would say that they use it for marketing purposes, driving business to their company's website, driving business to even to their call centers. I think three, they use it for communication purposes, internal communications, whether that's going to be Skype, whether that's going to be messaging, whether that's going to be email. Companies are using it for internal communications. They use it to provide services to their customers in the way of customer service, in the way of information about themselves, and offer that information up so customers can get it easily, which that will help reduce their help desk and their customer service costs from a physical basis. And then they use it for sharing information, knowledge management, other data storage devices in the cloud or on their client server inside their data center type environment. So they're using it for data storage, data retrieval. They're using it for commerce, e-commerce systems. They're using it for communication, inter-office and extra-office communication, and they're using it for marketing purposes.
How do people use computers and internet now?
So how do people use computers and the internet now? And I think that's a really important question as it relates to last mile technologies. I think people use it for socializing. I mean, believe it or not, the younger generation really look to Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter as socialization tools, and you're seeing more and more of that. People also use the internet and their computers for information gathering as it relates to researching maybe a product they want to buy, which then ties right into commerce. They use it a lot for commerce. People use it to provide directions and get directions. People are using it for personal financial needs, and then they're using it to work from home, VPN access into their corporate environment so that they can actually do work from home. So there's a lot of different ways that people are using it. And the last way they're using it, depending on their bandwidth capabilities, they're using it for entertainment purposes, mainly through their either dish or Comcast or Time Warner or Uverse or getting video on demand services. That's what a vast majority of people are doing through their provider.
How could that change with Google Fiber?
Wow, how could that change with Google Fiber? Well, Google Fiber can do some amazing things for us, both from a at-home perspective and the business perspective. Let's look at the business perspective side. I think first and foremost, it's about inexpensive last mile, inexpensive bandwidth to the internet. People can move their hosting to their corporate location instead of even having the host at the cloud. If they can provide backup, I know cloud is hot right now, but there's some total cost of ownership issues with the cloud that people have to look at. But I think primarily businesses see an opportunity for video conferencing, inter-office communication, as well as distance learning over video. So you have video distance learning, video conferencing, reducing travel budgets, providing knowledge and information about their products to their customers, and doing internal office meetings and internal distributed team meetings over video conferencing, and maybe even doing that high dev with high quality audio. We all see the jokes about conference calls these days, audio-based conference calls, and there's a funny one going around right now, and video does reduce those awkward situations in audio conference calls, and then doing it high dev wise could be incredible. On the personal side, I think that's even more significant. At the at-home user with that type of upstream and downstream bandwidth that Google Fiber would provide can do a vast array of things that they might not normally be doing, from file sharing associated with video clips and as well as pictures and digital photographs, to uploading of digital photographs and video. And from there, from video conferencing at home, where you're actually communicating with loved ones. It's much more of a travel-oriented society now, so people don't live in the same communities they were brought up in. Allowing that video conferencing face-to-face and high definition at home could be pretty amazing. But I think the primary driver for Google Fiber would be home entertainment. Really connecting in with things like Hulu, services like Amazon Prime, services like Netflix, whether you're using your Roku box or Apple TV, or a new provider that may come out and offer video over IP services to bypass the monopoly of the cable providers and offer much reduced pricing as it relates to home entertainment. There's a lot of net neutrality stuff going on in the last mile related to Netflix and complaints by those legalized oligopolies, the Comcast, the Time Warners, about how much space Netflix and some of the video providers take up. So at home, we love it. We love on demand. That's what we're consuming now. And so I think folks are going to push back if there becomes pressure to increase costs because of the bandwidth issues. And Google Fiber will allow a company to come in and just bypass those folks and throw it across the IP network instead of over the cable network from a last mile perspective through Google Fiber, and be able to provide much lower cost on-demand video. So that would be an exciting business opportunity for Google Fiber. It would also be great for at-home consumption, because that's what's happening now.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I think in general, when you look at the demographics of the Raleigh-Durham marketplace, you see a highly educated marketplace. Over 20% of the population here has an advanced degree of some kind, which drives folks who would utilize this technology both personally and for business purposes. We have a very rich and vibrant entrepreneurial community here, not only in Research Triangle Park, but also in the Tobacco Road area for Durham and also downtown Raleigh, who could utilize this technology to begin providing cloud services, to begin providing home entertainment services. So if you really had to look at a cool demographic that could really provide an interesting case study for a new last mile technology like Google Fiber, I think you couldn't pick anything better than the Raleigh-Durham metropolitan marketplace. Thank you.
Awesome.